Welcome to Discover Week 10. We go over our group rules every week, so we will start with that. Number 1, respect the privacy of others. What is said here stays here. Number 2, we are not here to fix one another, so please don't offer advice during group. Number 3, no crosstalk. Make a date to chat more with someone one-on-one privately if you want to visit more. And number 4, limit sharing time when contributing to the conversation, and you must use the mic that Miranda has when we get to that portion of our time together. So this is Discover Week 10. It's our last week, and it is our final step, step 12, which is in one short phrase, share the love. Share the love. Sharing is caring. So that's the easy way you can remember step 12, share the love. AA's step 12 says this: having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. So that's like a pretty loaded step. We reworded that to say this for Discover. As a result of our engagement with the steps and becoming more sober-minded and self-aware, we are inclined to share what we've learned with others whenever and wherever possible. So ours, of course, is generic, and it's to all humans. It's not just to the alcoholic, as AA's is directed. It's to everybody, because the steps, like we shout, are for everyone. Step 12, share the love, is a culmination of the previous 11 steps. It is the cake that is baked once the other 11 ingredients are added to the batter. We could say, this is a quote, it's been attributed to many different people: Christianity is just one beggar showing another beggar where she found bread. We haven't graduated from beggar, aka sinner, because of our engagement with the 12 steps. We are merely showing a fellow beggar, a fellow sinner, where we found and continue to find nourishment for our hungry. We don't graduate from needing the steps. So a lot of times people will think, I'm at step 12, I'm done. And that's not what that means. We're not graduating. Now we just are aware of all 12 steps and how they intersect with our life and how they help us cope with life. But they're not something that we graduate for. It's just the cake that's baked once all of these things are combined together. This is kind of what we get. We get to this place of self-awareness and sober-mindedness that we haven't been before. It doesn't mean we're the most sober-minded we will be, because we have the propensity to relapse. All of life is relapse in one form or another. Recovery is filled with relapses. So that's true for all of us, even as just sober-minded people. This step 12, is us putting what we've learned into daily practice. Most often, we don't have to seek out specific ways to do this, step 12. We are given natural opportunities to pay it forward. Although some of us may benefit from seeking out ways to be of service to others to avoid thinking of ourselves more than is healthy, sometimes what keeps us sober-minded is engaging with those that are not yet sober-minded. If you've ever gotten to a place in some sort of issue, even if it's emotional and mental, it doesn't have to be about a substance dependency. Maybe just codependency in general on a person. But you've gotten to a healthier place, a more sober-minded place, and then you're around people who are not yet in that place and not yet that much, that sober-minded, or maybe they've relapsed into a place of some sort of intoxication with their codependency, and you're like, wow, it actually helped me being around her or them or him, because I don't want to be there again. So it kind of reorients us to go, I don't want to be that way. I know what it felt like to be there. And so sometimes what keeps us sober-minded is engaging with people that are not yet sober-minded or are having a relapse of some kind. Martin Luther said this: To progress is to begin again, which I love because that's not really how progress is defined, especially in our American culture. Progress is typically going up, ascending, climbing higher, striving, and never ever revisiting anywhere you've been. And Martin Luther said it best: to progress is to begin again. So if we just give up, there's pictures of what that looks like. And relapse is part of recovery. So to progress and to begin again, like, okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to have another level of sobriety that I'm, exploring and maybe becoming aware of. So to progress is to begin again. It's tough to face failure, relapse, or unhealthy patterns that reveal themselves repeatedly, but by using the 12 steps over and over to cope with the pains, potholes, patterns, and people in our lives, we begin to see the progress of God's work in us as He begins again and again on a daily basis. That can be something that can encourage us, not something that goes, oh, I have to start all the way over. If that's only what it looks like to you, like, oh, I have to start over. This is at the bottom instead of, this is part of the cyclical journey. I'm going around. It's not top or bottom. It's this way. And so for us to be more mindful of, like, that's what God does. He begins again every single day. Step 12 is almost like an unofficial outreach program. And I love this because I truly believe this. If God has truly worked in us through the steps, we can't help but want to share what we have experienced. If you've ever had some sort of spiritual awakening in your life, it doesn't matter how, you almost can't not share it with somebody somehow. Even if it's just in your attitude and your outlook and your posture, somehow it's being reflected. We don't ever keep it to ourselves and go, I'm not changing how I'm acting and I'm not sharing this with anybody. When we find something that tastes really good, I'm a foodie, so if I find something really good locally, I'm not going to not share, hey, everybody needs to go try this if you like this kind of food. I'm going to share that unless I don't want people to go there and it becomes busy and then I'm mad because I don't have a seat. That may be a reason I don't share. And I have done that. But when we have something that is so good that you're like, I have this great product I tried. I have this food that we went and ate at this place. It was amazing. The service, that whatever it is, we usually share those things that have happened to us or we've become aware of that are really good. We can't not share it. So it's almost like an unofficial outreach program. Typically, AA specifically or other recovery programs will get somebody, to step 12, hello, Carolyn. And then they will say, well, now you have to go serve people. Go sign up for the soup kitchen. Go, it's, going to be the holidays. You got to do the shoe boxes. You got to do, they try to get you to sign up for immediately, all these things in all of these different ways. And that's not bad in and of itself. But usually those are obligatory in some way. And it may make you feel like, well, now I'm in this better place, so I need to go serve. I'm one of the healthy people now. I need to go serve, which really, in essence, most of the places that God would have us enact step 12 is in a place that we haven't planned. It will be an unplanned way. It doesn't mean that, if you go to AA meetings and you're going to you know what, I'm going to clean the ashtrays and straighten up the coffee cups every week. That is part of step 12. That's a step 12 service to others. Maybe it is just, showing up to encourage somebody that is doing something like graduation, or they're getting their next milestone at something like AA, or maybe it's just a job promotion, or a friend that's having a bad day and is not handling it well, and you're the listening ear. Step 12 is an outreach program that's unofficial. So it's probably going to look like something that you haven't planned, is during a time that you hadn't thought that this would be where and when God would have you speak. But it's usually something that you know about, that you're capable of doing. It's not going to push you in a way that's like, oh my gosh, I've never done that. Now I'm not going to go out there and do this now. Because a lot of programs can make you feel like you have to do this, like you have to go serve and it has to look like this. I would suggest that you would allow God, not even allow God, that you would be mindful that God may have some other alternative plans for you to serve. Go and find those, seek those, go serve at a shelter, go, do whatever you want to do. All of those are good things. There's a lot of good things to go do. But the way God really wants you to enact step 12 may not look like something that we've actually planned to do or become a part of. So I would say just be willing, aware to think, maybe how God wants me to enact step 12 is this way. The first 11 steps can be summarized in one word, and that word is honesty. They really all challenge us to be honest in some specific way. And step 12 gives us the chance to share our newfound robust honesty in ways that will set other people free and give them an appetite for more freedom. This honesty is not something we have mustered up ourselves. Honesty, in and of itself, is inwardly generated by God alone. Because we can kind of start taking ownership for our robust honesty and our ability to be honest and open and forthright and like bearing everything. We can start taking ownership of that. But it's only God who actually generates inward honesty. He alone is honest, and any honesty that comes from us is because it came through him first. Like, it is coming through us. It is him coming through us as honesty. That's what he does. When and where we can't remain sober-minded, we will typically find ourselves stuck in any given issue, usually at step 4 and 5, which is inventory and confession, or just before it's time to take step 9, which is apology. So before we started this meeting tonight, I had someone that has been going through Discover and has gone through it multiple times. And she said, I stopped at step 4. Like, that's where she is. I said, you didn't stop at step 4. You are at step 4. Like, that's where God has you. And so we can, a lot of times, feel like I have to get through all of the steps. Like, I have to keep going and check them off. And in one sense, that's true. That's not a bad thing. But we cannot force ourselves to get through these steps. It is God that does the work of these steps in and through us. We are just becoming more aware of them. So if you feel stuck in any given issue, it's usually at step 4 and 5, or possibly 9. Those are the most common. And a solution, one solution for our stuckness may be to help someone else to do step 12. That may help us to get out of that stuck place that we find ourselves. Our service is for others, but we are also helped by helping. So it's not just like, oh, I'm the one doing, the helping here. I'm giving, and that is true. But we are also, step 12 is also, in one sense, a selfish act. Like, I need to do this in order to stay sober-minded. I need to do step 12 in whatever way God presents me with for my own good. Like, this is for me so that I can continue to be good to other people horizontally. So I can continue to be honest and helpful and loving to people in my life. So where you might be stuck, sometimes step 12 is helpful and a solution for you to maybe get unstuck. Humility is birthed out of robust honesty. So if step 1 through 11 is honesty, just summed up in one word, what would be birthed, if that's real honesty, would be humility. And being of service to others is humility. If you think about Jesus humbling himself to do something for us, to love us, it is humbling to serve others. It is The humility of God in human form is Jesus. The humility of God in spirit is his spirit. Humility is birthed out of robust honesty. Being of service to others is humility. Humble service to others isn't what we do after we are sober. We serve to stay sober. Service and sobriety go hand in hand. So we're not sober because we're serving. It's this. They go together. They are two sides of the same coin. To the degree that we are dishonest about our own sin, we will not be able to empathize with others. Where we can't empathize with others, we reveal a lack of love for others. And where we lack love for others, we will resist serving others. You see that chain reaction? If there's a place that we're really not honest, we're not ready to be honest about this part of our character defects or our life or our history or our current sin struggles, whatever it is that we're really wrestling with or is kind of rising to the surface. If we're dishonest about that, we're going to lack some measure of empathy for others. And where we lack empathy for others, that's just a lack of love for others. And where we lack love for others, we're going to resist serving people in those places. That's just true. And you know this about yourself because of those exact reasons. I do. And we know that because you see that in other people. In Grace and Addiction on page 233, John has this great story of someone enacting step 12 to another. And so this is what he says. So I walked up to the payphone and dialed the number for AA. I started crying, saying, "I'm an alcoholic." Instead of rejecting me, she said, "Just a minute, you wait right there." And she sent out a guy named Ed. I actually resisted listening to him for a while because I thought he wasn't hip like me. I knew that I was just down on my luck. Ed, on the other hand, looked like he'd never had any luck in the first place. But then I saw his eyes. He did what it talks about in the big book. He relived the horrors of his past with me. He told me about himself, and he did something that I learned a great lesson from. He asked me about me. He said, "What do you do?" And I started crying. I said, "I think I'm an alcoholic." But he cut me off and said, "No. What did you do for a living before drinking got the better of you?" And I told him about my writing. He actually recognized some of the things I'd written. And he said, "That's great stuff. You're very talented. God must really have something in mind for you." Then I just broke down and started crying because no one had ever said anything kind or hopeful to me in years. And if he hadn't done that, I would not be sober today or here. He had read the big book, and he understood that we don't get anyone into recovery by being tough on them, but we get people here by unconditional love. They're already hurt, and they've already been through enough hell. We don't need to add to it. We need to let them know that there's a place where there's hope, and that's what Ed did for me. After we had talked for a while, Ed put me in his Pinto to get something to drink so that he could help me taper off the booze because I was now starting to vibrate. He realized that I was going into DTs because he had worked with wet drunks before. He knew, and he asked, "Are you going to be okay? I'm going to stop here for just 1 minute to get some money so we can get you back on track." And he got out of the car to use the ATM. It was the first ATM machine I'd ever seen. They were pretty new in 1977. It was a hot day, June the 8th, 1977, in Atlanta. So he goes up to the machine to get his $20 or whatever. And before he can get back to the car, I couldn't get the door open because my hands were rattling so much. And I had thrown up all over the inside of his brand new Pinto. And the only thing that he did when he opened the door and saw what had happened was put his arm around me. He said, "It's going to be okay." If he had been critical of me, I wouldn't be here tonight. But Ed knew that we don't have new cars, new jobs, or new lives unless we're willing to work with another alcoholic. And he loved me, and he cared for me, and he took me to a place where I could weather the withdrawals. His story reveals the profound impact that grace has upon people. He is quick to contrast grace with criticism, and the distinction is a helpful one. Encouragement and affirmation are far more powerful in straightening someone out than any amount of advice or law. The one-way love of grace can accomplish what no amount of criticism can, and it tends to be most effective in the cases where all other attempts to create change have failed, alcoholism being the perfect example. Even a totally inexperienced counselor or a novice can benefit someone who is looking for help. Indeed, the primary impact of therapy does not come from anything the therapist says, but from their affirming and focused presence. The simple power of having someone in your corner, listening to you, taking an interest in you, entering into your life from the outside and caring does wonders for a suffering person. So, we all need it, and most of us have too little experience with encouragement, but we are unable to impart or benefit much from true compassion until we have become aware of our own failings, which is what we like to call around here wounded healers. When you really are able to understand your own past and your woundedness, and God takes you through that and takes you through the steps and engages you with them, and you become able to speak from your scars rather than your wounds, there's something magical about it. The steps have gifted us a new set of glasses by which we view ourselves, God, and the world around us. These new lenses reorient us and continue to adjust our sight as we engage with the steps further and more often. In the 12 by 12, which is on page 107 of the big book, says this: when a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he could not do before on his unaided strength and resources alone. He has been granted a gift which amounts to a new state of consciousness and being, those new glasses, those new lenses. He has been set on a path which tells him he is really going somewhere, that life is not a dead end, not something to be endured or mastered. He finds himself in possession of a degree in honesty, tolerance, unselfishness, peace of mind, and love which he had thought himself quite incapable, which I think that's an encouraging statement, that whole entire thing. Hopefully, if you've engaged with the steps to some degree of true honesty, that would be true of you. So our unplanned ministries, I like to call them, are typically those places in our lives we have experienced tragedy or trauma. So if you think about those places in your life that you've experienced tragedy or trauma, those types of experiences are usually what we find on our inventory list, which we have 5 of them here in Discover, and those things are typically what we find there. We may have dreamt of being able to speak boldly about this or that. Maybe you thought you would be really good at being this kind of speaker or this kind of leader or work in this area professionally. But God often prefers us to speak about the places where he has met us most profoundly, which are usually those tragic places of trauma. The places in our lives where he alone is the hero, the pains we prefer forgetting and the past we prefer hidden. Those are typically the places of unplanned ministry that we will enact our step 12. Like usually it's in those places, connected to one of those tragedies or traumas or tough places that you've been in your life. The places where we need God to speak the loudest and most is where he often will have us speak the loudest and most about him to someone else in need. Maybe that's already happened to you. Step 12 encourages us into our personal places of unplanned ministry, no matter what our profession or place in society. It encourages our new inner wounded healer to come out and introduce herself to someone in need. When and where that may happen, we would be wise to heed this. I say this often, and so you guys have heard me repeat this throughout Discover. Speak from your scars, not from your wounds. You aren't helping someone by bleeding all over them. Don't forget that. You're more helpful to someone when you can touch the scar where the wound used to be and explain to them how it got there and what God did with all of that pain. Some of the passages that I think go along with step 12 that I rely on, the first one found in Isaiah, you have cured me and given me life. My suffering has turned to health. It is you who have kept my soul from the pit of nothingness. You have thrust all my sins behind your back. The living are the ones who praise you as I do today. That passage meant so much to me to be reminded that I may not be healed and whole and totally healthy this side of the grave, but ultimately my suffering has turned to health because God has kept my soul from the pit of nothingness. That's ultimately true. This side of heaven, I may not be cured of the things that I want to be rid of or don't want to suffer with anymore. Maybe that's true for you with some ailment that you have or illness or habit. Maybe you won't be cured of it this side of heaven, but ultimately we are. Ultimately we are. In Psalm, I love Psalm 78, 3 and 4. It says, what we have heard and know for ourselves must not be withheld from our descendants, but be handed on by us to the next generation. Like I said earlier, once we really hear something that's life-giving, that means something deeply to us and changes us, what we have heard and know for ourselves must not be withheld from our descendants, like the people in our lives, the people that come after us, but be shared, be handed on to the next generation. I mean, that's a step 12. Whatever that looks like for you. In Luke, I love this passage. Simon, Simon, you must be sifted like wheat, and once you have recovered, you in turn must strengthen your brothers and sisters. So, Stacie, you're going to go through it, sister. That's the work that he does. That's the surgical work that he does. And once you've recovered, once you've healed in that spot, once there's a scar there, you in turn must strengthen your brothers and sisters. You'll be able to do that. It's not a law. It's like you must, because you're not going to be able to not do it. Think of that must not as a directive or another law, but like you're not going to be able to not share it with them. You're going to want to share how it felt to be wounded and how it feels to be recovered and scarred in some way that is helpful and hopeful. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 8, what was given to you freely, you must give away freely. And again, this is not a law. We don't have to give anything away. There's nothing we have to do for God, right? So this is not a law. What was given to you freely, you must, like you are not going to be able to keep it inside. You must give it away freely, like you want to. You don't want to not give it away freely because you understand, I cannot believe I've received this forgiveness or this love or this mercy, this salvation, this peace, this healing, this health, this help, this hope. We can't not give that away to other people. And in Galatians 5:1, it was for freedom that Christ has set us free. Whatever freedom we feel, God has given us because that was the mission of Jesus. I came to set the captives free. That's what he came for. And so the freer we are and the more we share that freedom with others, it just perpetuates more freedom, which is an amazing feeling if you have been the recipient of that at all. So the prayer prompt for step 12 is, God, compel me to daily honesty so that I might serve others humbly. Reveal those unique, unplanned spaces of service to others that you would use for the good of others and myself. Prompt me to speak from my scars and keep me from crying for help from my wounds when serving others. Keep me engaged with the steps as you continue to heal me. It's pretty simple. And our last part of Think About It, which is never homework, always just diagnostic. Number 1, what patterns have you discovered, healthy or not so healthy ones, about yourself during Discover? What patterns have you discovered? What have you learned about your greatest life pains, whether they are pains you have inflicted on others or pains that have been inflicted on you? Number 3, where have you discovered potholes? What are those places in life that cause you to stumble or struggle? Have you discovered any of those? Number 4, what have you discovered about people in your life? Who are the people in your lives? Why are they there? What are their roles? What have you discovered about the people in your life? Number 5, what are some obvious ways you've been awakened by the steps? Have the steps actually awakened you, like step 12 says? Like step 12 is only acknowledging some piece of us that is awakened. So what are those places in you that have been awakened by the steps? Number 6, what are some ways you have already or might share the love or pay it forward? Maybe you're already doing that. You're already doing step 12 and you don't even know it. Number 7, what are some of your unplanned ministries God has shown you through this? Maybe you're already doing that and you just didn't know that that's what it was. Number 8, are you more sober-minded having engaged with the steps? Do you realize you are, or maybe you're realizing how not sober-minded you are because of them? I don't know what that answer is. Only you do, you and God. So if you have any feedback for the workshop, whether any part of it, it doesn't matter, any part of it, comments or feedback at the very bottom there, it has my email. Please share your thoughts via email with me. I would love to hear any thoughts or comments or feedback that any of you have. So that concludes Discover Week 10, Step 12, our last step, share the love.